Before diving into the video, did you know that over 80% of you watching right now aren't subscribed? Your one like and one subscribe means the absolute world to this channel and helps us keep going. Hit those buttons real quick and let's get into the video. Chapter 1. The Rain and the Silence. On the eve of the typhoon, I waited downstairs at my office building for 2 full hours, but the wife who had promised to come pick me up never showed. Just as I was about to call a taxi, I finally saw the message she had sent a few minutes earlier. Something came up at the last minute. "I'm not coming to get you." Yet on her mail assistant's WeChat moments, I saw her. He posted, "Good thing the boss drove me home, otherwise I probably would have had to spend the night at the office." The attached photo showed a familiar dashboard along with my wife's long legs wrapped in flesh-colored stockings. I let out a self-mocking laugh, quietly tapped like, and even left a comment, "Really jealous that you have such a great boss." After I left with my luggage, my wife panicked and used every connection she had to look for me. "If there's anything I did wrong, I can change. Please don't leave me." As the end of the workday approached, a torrential downpour arrived without warning. Watching colleagues leave one by one, I started thinking about calling a taxi. Just as I took out my phone, I saw a message from my wife, "Sarah. It's pouring. Wait for me at the office. I'll come pick you up." "Okay." I knew this was Sarah trying to make peace. Last week was Sarah's birthday. I took the day off and booked a restaurant, planning to celebrate it properly with her. But I waited until the restaurant closed, and Sarah still never appeared. On the taxi ride home, I scrolled through WeChat to pass the time, only to see her assistant Julian post an update. "Boss treating us to a dinner. Such a great day." The photo showed a group shot of Sarah's employees, though Julian and Sarah stood especially close to each other. When Sarah finally got home, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning. I took the photo and walked up to her to question her. "Today's your birthday. Didn't we agree long ago to have dinner together?" Sarah replied, "David, stop making a fuss. A birthday can be celebrated anytime. I'm not just your wife. I'm also the boss of a company. An employee closed a deal, so I treated everyone to dinner. What's wrong with that? If you have so much energy for these pointless things, you might as well go to bed early." Sarah didn't even look at the photo in my hand. She brushed past me impatiently. I stood there stunned and silently deleted the photo I had saved. If she didn't even care about her own birthday, why was I bothering to worry about it? From that night until now, we had been locked in a Cold War for a full week. In the past, after every Cold War, it was always me who tried every possible way to make up with her. But now, with Sarah taking the initiative to reconcile, I felt nothing at all and only replied with a minimalist "okay." The rain grew heavier and heavier, splashing up as it hit the ground. Even with rainwater soaking my pant legs, Sarah still didn't come. Disappointed, I took out my phone and called a ride. While waiting, I saw another update from Julian's WeChat moments. "Good thing the boss drove me home. Otherwise, I'd definitely be soaked like a drowned rat." Below the caption was a photo of a familiar dashboard. On the dashboard sat a small plush toy, the one Sarah and I had won together from a claw machine when we first met. When I first tried to put it in the car, Sarah had been extremely dismissive. "It's ugly, and putting it in the car is a safety hazard." Only after my repeated pleas did Sarah reluctantly allow the plush toy to stay. Thinking of that, I finally let it go. I liked the post and left a comment, "With such a great boss, that really is something to envy." I knew Sarah had broken her promise again, and on the ride-hailing app, there were still dozens of people ahead of me in the queue. I lowered my head and looked at my already soaked pant legs, decisively canceled the order, opened my umbrella, and walked straight into the heavy rain. Chapter 2. The Wrong Address. When I got home, Sarah still hadn't returned. Even though I took a shower as soon as I arrived and changed into dry clothes, I still felt unwell. Not long after I lay down, a faint rustling sound woke me up. Sarah was back. Perhaps she hadn't expected me to go to sleep without waiting for her. She walked into the bedroom and stopped in front of the bed. I could feel her gaze resting on me, but my head was dizzy and I didn't bother to respond. After standing there for a while, Sarah left the room and I slipped back into a deep sleep. When I woke up the next morning, my head felt unbearably heavy. I didn't even notice the alarm blaring beside me. It wasn't until I heard Sarah click her tongue impatiently that I was jolted fully awake. I had a fever, but there was an important meeting today that I needed to chair. After weighing my options, I had no choice but to drag my exhausted body out the door. After arriving at the office, the colleague sitting next to me noticed something was off and kindly brought me some fever medicine. I had just finished taking it when a message from Sarah popped up. "David, are you angry?" I replied, "What would I be angry about? But you didn't make breakfast for me today. Isn't that because you're angry?" "No, I was in a rush this morning and forgot. Ever since we got married, making breakfast before heading out had become my daily routine. Even though Sarah had never eaten it even once, and even during our Cold Wars, this habit had never been broken. But this morning I really had been in too much of a hurry and forgot. Still, hearing Sarah speak in a tone that sounded like she was ordering a housekeeper made me feel uncomfortable. I turned off my phone and went into the meeting room. The meeting was long and tedious, finally ending close to quitting time. As soon as I turned my phone back on, I saw another message from Sarah. Getting off work soon. I'll come pick you up tonight, okay? I'll wait downstairs at the company. However, after work, I forced myself to stand downstairs for a full half hour despite the waves of dizziness. And Sarah still didn't show up. Just as I was about to head home on my own, Sarah called. David, are you off work yet? Yeah, I'm right at the company entrance, but I don't see you. Through the phone, I heard fingers tapping against the dashboard. Sarah always did that when she was irritated, using it to calm herself. Perhaps because she wanted to make up for standing me up yesterday, she unusually didn't explode. David, did your company change its entrance? I'm right at your office building, but I don't see you either. You're at the Chiang building? My hand tightened around the phone. On the other end, Sarah seemed to be venting her displeasure, her tone rising noticeably. Of course I am. No matter what, I'm still your wife. How could I not know where you work? Listening to her confident answer, I couldn't help lowering my gaze. The Chaoyang building had indeed been where I worked before, but the company had relocated half a year ago. I even remembered specifically sending Sarah the new address when it happened. What I hadn't expected was that she still went to the wrong place today. I'll just head back myself. This area is all one-way streets. It'd be a hassle for you to come over. Sarah stayed silent for quite a while. Then the call was abruptly cut off. Chapter 3. An Unexpected Shift. When I got home, Sarah was already sitting on the sofa, her eyes fixed on the door. She got home before me. After we got married, I had always been the one to arrive home first. Even when the meals I carefully prepared for her had gone cold, Sarah still hadn't come back. Back then, I would always follow her around and complain, asking why she hadn't told me she'd be late. She would give me a cold glance and ignore me. Just because I'm not home, you can't eat by yourself? Or do you want me to give up my job and revolve around you every day? I would say, but I waited for you for so long, the food's all cold. If it's cold, just throw it away. Is it really worth annoying me over something this trivial? After that, I never brought it up again. I would simply put her portion into the warming cabinet in silence. Seeing her get home earlier than me like this was something I never would have imagined even in my dreams. What surprised me even more was that Sarah actually stood up and walked toward me on her own initiative. Sarah stood beside me with her head lowered, like a child who knew she had done something wrong. David, I'm sorry. I've really been too busy lately. My mind just wasn't working straight, so I went to the wrong place. It's fine, I understand you're busy with work. Yesterday, it was because one of the employees closed a huge deal. They suddenly started clamoring for a celebration. So, I forgot you were waiting for me. No, you don't need to explain it specially. Listening to Sarah's explanations, I only responded perfunctorily. If this had been before, I would have been over the moon just because Sarah was willing to patiently explain things to me like this. But now, there wasn't the slightest ripple in my heart. I even felt a bit annoyed by her. David, you're angry? No, I'm not. What would I be angry about? Then why do you still look so indifferent after I've already explained everything? You didn't make breakfast this morning, and now you're deliberately acting cold. If that's not being angry, then what is it? At that moment, I actually felt that Sarah was being unreasonable. Scenes like this hadn't happened just once since we got married. In the past, whenever it came to this, Sarah would stand silently to the side, looking at me coldly, as if she were watching a clown perform. Thinking back on it now, I must have looked utterly ridiculous to her. No wonder she was always willing to stay out late and come home so late. But this time, I clearly wasn't feeling angry at all. So why was she panicking? I mimicked how Sarah used to act and walked straight past her. If there's nothing else, I'm going to take a shower. I haven't showered either. How about we shower together tonight? No, I'm not feeling well. I need to rest after washing up. I shook off Sarah's hand and walked straight into the bathroom. The moment I closed the door, I heard the sound of the front door shutting. Sarah went out again. Was this another round of the Cold War? I shook my head, turned on the shower, and let the warm water wash over me. In the past, every time we had a Cold War, I would be anxious and restless, desperately trying to figure out how to end it. Sometimes I'd pretend to send the wrong message and immediately retract it, or deliberately post something on my moments. But Sarah would never be curious about what I had retracted, nor would she ever look at my moments. Back then, all my thoughts revolved around her, to the point that I often lost focus at work. But now, not only did I no longer feel that anxious unease, I actually felt an inexplicable sense of relief throughout my body and mind. Especially at night, I really wanted to sleep well, but Sarah's late returns would always wake me up. Now that she had moved into the guest room, my sleep had been unexpectedly good. I didn't even need to spend time cooking for her anymore. After all, even if I cooked, she wouldn't eat it. Ever since we got married, most of my energy had been poured into Sarah, squeezing my own time and space smaller and smaller. The thing I did most every day was send messages to Sarah, asking whether she had eaten, whether she had encountered anything interesting, endlessly sharing my daily life with her. Even though she rarely replied, and even when she did, it was just brief, perfunctory responses, I still did it tirelessly. Back then, I rarely worked overtime, only wanting to hurry home to cook for her, hoping she could have a hot meal when she got back. But Sarah was always busy, either with work or social engagements. Sometimes she wouldn't even come home for an entire week. Now that I decided to stop making her the center of my world, I hadn't expected to feel so much lighter all at once. Chapter 4. The Passenger Seat. Sarah didn't come home again for several days. I took out my phone and instinctively opened Julian's WeChat. Sure enough, just as I expected, on the days Sarah wasn't home, the two of them were always together. This time, Sarah had taken Julian on a business trip out of town. They ate together and entertained clients together. In the photos, Sarah was smiling brightly. At least she never smiled like that when she was with me. If this had been before, seeing Sarah so close to another man, I would have gone crazy calling her. Every time I confronted her, she could always act completely innocent and come up with countless excuses. As time went on, Sarah couldn't even be bothered to explain anymore. She would just slam the door and leave. But now, seeing their photos together again, I felt no resentment at all. I even went so far as to like every single post. Because the last meeting I hosted had been very successful, the company intended to promote me, but the new position was in another city. At first, I hesitated over whether to accept it, but now I had already made up my mind to distance myself from Sarah. After getting off work and heading home, I actually saw Sarah standing at the entrance of the company. I instinctively wanted to go around her, but Sarah seemed to have already guessed my intention and stepped forward to block me first. "David, I just happened to be nearby taking care of something today, so I thought I'd come pick you up." "Okay." I nodded, not looking at Sarah any longer. I opened the front passenger door, only to find Julian already sitting there. "Long time no see, David. I came out with Sarah to talk business, and she's just giving me a ride home on the way. You don't mind, right? You were just talking business. What would I have to mind?" I smiled at Julian, then opened the back door and sat down. Sarah, who got into the car last, seemed to sense that something was off. She hesitated, then turned back to explain to me. "Julian gets car sick, so I let him sit in front. Car sickness is pretty normal, isn't it? You don't need to explain it to me." I looked at Sarah calmly. She withdrew her gaze, a little guilty. I figured she must be quite surprised right now. Even though I didn't often ride in her car, every time I did, I always insisted on sitting in the front passenger seat. Back then, I took pride in being able to sit in Sarah's passenger seat. She was always impatient about it, and we had even argued over it more than once. What she didn't know was that I just wanted to sit beside her, nothing more. But now, whoever sat in her passenger seat had nothing to do with me anymore. Julian, sitting next to Sarah, naturally started chatting with her about company matters. I couldn't understand it, didn't want to listen, and had no interest in joining in, so I simply closed my eyes to rest. However, even if I didn't want to be involved, Julian clearly had no intention of letting me off. "David, why didn't you come to Sarah's birthday celebration at the company a while back?" I didn't know she was having a birthday party. I was too busy that day. I even forgot it was her birthday. I opened my eyes and glanced at Sarah through the rearview mirror. She looked rather unnatural, her eyes darting around restlessly. Julian, on the other hand, put on an expression of exaggerated surprise. "But David, haven't you been married for years? Maybe you've been together so long that it's easy to overlook things." "Julian, stop talking. You chatting like this is distracting me while I'm driving." Sarah hurriedly cut him off, clearly feeling extremely guilty. Julian also realized he'd said the wrong thing, shrank back, and didn't speak to me again. I smiled faintly and closed my eyes once more. Julian thought I had forgotten Sarah's birthday, but what he didn't know was that whether it was her birthday or our wedding anniversary, anything related to Sarah I remembered clearly. Chapter 5. The Agreement on the Floor. The car soon arrived home. After putting my things away, I went into the kitchen to cook some noodles. When Sarah saw that I came out carrying only one bowl, her expression stiffened. David, you only made one serving. Where's mine? Didn't you eat while you were out taking care of things just now? Or were you not full? I looked at Sarah with faint confusion. She actually shrank back a little, looking oddly subdued. I didn't bother with it any further and sat down to eat. She stood up awkwardly and sat across from me, looking like she wanted to say something but couldn't bring herself to. If this had been before, I would have already started fussing over her out of concern, but now I just wanted to quietly finish my dinner. Seeing that I had no intention of engaging with her, Sarah braced herself and spoke first. Actually, that day, I did remember that you were waiting for me. It just so happened that an employee closed a huge deal, and it coincided with my birthday. They started egging me on to go out for a group dinner. And once things got busy, I forgot to let you know. That's all in the past now. Let's not bring it up anymore. I didn't really mind it that much anyway. I saw a flicker of astonishment flash across Sarah's face, because those were exactly the words she usually used. I remembered the last time I pressed her relentlessly about what her relationship with Julian really was. Maybe she'd gotten fed up with me because she suddenly started shouting, Julian is just my assistant, nothing more. It's such a tiny issue. Why do you keep bringing it up over and over again? David, are you ever going to stop? Do you have any idea how annoying you're being right now? That was when our longest Cold War began. Pulling my thoughts back, I finished the noodles in just a few bites. While Sarah still didn't seem ready to go out, I took out the divorce agreement I'd had a lawyer draft in advance and placed it in front of her. Sarah merely glanced at the title and couldn't help letting out a cold laugh. David, what is this supposed to mean? Playing the divorce card again? You're not a kid anymore. Is it really interesting to keep pulling this kind of stunt on me? She didn't even read the contents, sweeping the divorce agreement onto the floor instead. I looked at her, crouched down to pick it up, and handed it back to her again. This time, I'm serious. Sarah's expression darkened visibly. She stood up and slammed her palm down hard on the divorce agreement. David, is it really fun for you to keep pulling this kind of stunt? If you want something, can't you just say it outright? Or, do you think I have that much free time to play along with your drama? I looked at her calmly and said nothing. I knew that the moment I opened my mouth, it would inevitably turn into a fierce argument. Sarah shot me a cold glance and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I had no interest in where she was going or what she planned to do. After placing the divorce agreement in the study she used as her office, I began browsing listings near the new position. By the time I turned off the lights and went to bed, Sarah still hadn't come home, and I was more than happy not to be disturbed. Chapter 6. Forgotten Belongings. The next day after work, I saw Sarah again at the entrance of the company. Though I felt a bit puzzled, I didn't refuse. When she saw me skillfully open the back door and get in, Sarah's expression turned strange. David, you're sitting in the back? You're the one driving anyway. Does it really make a difference where I sit? If you think it makes no difference, then come sit in the front. I shrugged indifferently and moved to the front passenger seat. But the moment I sat down, something hard jabbed into me. I picked it up. It was a watch. Seeing it, Sarah's expression grew awkward, and she immediately explained. That must be Julian's watch. He's always leaving his things behind. Judging by it, it doesn't look cheap. Don't forget to return it to him. I handed the watch to Sarah. After taking it, she still couldn't help but continue explaining. David, there really is nothing between Julian and me. You have to believe me. He's just my subordinate. He often rides in my car because of work. Sarah, you don't need to explain. This isn't important to me. I cut her off before she could finish, shaking my head at her. Sarah froze, staring at me in disbelief. David, what are you talking about? What I mean is, you don't need to explain what kind of relationship you have with Julian. I honestly don't care anymore. Sarah's face instantly drained of color. She opened her mouth as if to say something more, but I had no desire to keep entangling myself in this topic. I turned my head and looked out the window. From that day on, Sarah seemed to have more time. She came to pick me up from work every day. Each day, I would place a divorce agreement already signed on the table, and each time, she pretended not to see it. I wasn't in a hurry, nor did I press her about it. I knew our divorce was only a matter of time. I was just the one who brought it up first. I wouldn't act as anxiously as before, because that would only make her think I was throwing a tantrum. Chapter 7. Reversals. That weekend, I left early to take the high-speed rail to the branch office to look at apartments. However, the moment I got off the train, I received a call from Sarah. David, where are you? Working overtime. What's wrong? I instinctively told a lie. Unexpectedly, Sarah's voice immediately turned aggrieved. I'm downstairs at your company right now. There's no one in your office at all." I fell silent. On the other end of the line, Sarah unusually didn't hang up. Looking at the constant stream of messages from the real estate agent, I casually made up an excuse to brush her off. "I was sent out on a business trip. How could you possibly see me at the company? Let's leave it at that. I need to go meet a client." Without giving Sarah any chance to respond, I hung up the phone directly. In the past, Sarah often used this exact line to dismiss me. After hearing it so many times, I'd learned it myself. I looked at several apartments in a row, but none of them felt quite right, and I couldn't make a decision. Fortunately, the two cities weren't that far apart. I could always come back again next weekend. When I returned home, Sarah was surprisingly there as well. "You went on a business trip and didn't even tell me. You actually went to another city behind my back." "I'm a grown man. I just went somewhere else for a one-day business trip. Do I really need to report that to you?" Looking at Sarah with her brows tightly furrowed, I couldn't help but laugh. I remembered that not long ago, Sarah herself had gone on a month-long business trip. I had no idea where she was, so I went crazy calling her. An entire night passed, and Sarah didn't answer a single call. Just when I was so anxious that I was about to call the police, she finally called me back. "What is it?" "Sarah, where did you go? I tried contacting you all night and got no response. I was worried sick. It was just a business trip. Even if we're married, you don't have to control everything. Do I really need to report every single thing to you?" After confirming she was safe, I felt relieved, but at the same time a trace of anger crept in. Yet Sarah didn't give me any chance to speak. She quickly hung up the phone. Now that our roles were reversed, she was the one showing concern for me. Pulling myself back to the present, I planned to go back to my room to rest, but she suddenly grabbed my arm. Before she could say anything, the phone on the table rang. I could clearly feel her hand tremble. She then let go of me and answered the call. "Sarah, I have a fever. Could you come take me to the hospital?" Julian's slightly weak voice echoed through the quiet room. Sarah hesitated, her gaze shifting back and forth between me and her phone. I grinned and waved my hand at her. "He's asking for your help. If you want to go, just go. Having a fever really is miserable." "David, I'm sorry. Earlier when you weren't feeling well. Go on. He'll be anxious if you make him wait." I didn't want to see Sarah hesitating like this, so I cut her off before she could finish. She stared at me blankly, then tried to reach out and grab my hand, but this time I dodged. Her hand hung awkwardly in midair, only retracting after a long moment. After a while, she finally spoke again. "Tonight, I'll come home for dinner." I didn't respond. Chapter 8. Echoes of the Past. After watching her rush out the door, I went back to my room to rest. When I woke up, it was already 7 o'clock. As usual, I cooked enough food for 2 people, yet Sarah still hadn't come back. This time, however, I didn't wait for her like I used to. I simply ate my portion. After cleaning up the dishes, I habitually opened WeChat moments. To my surprise, I didn't see any updates from Julian this time. In the past, whenever he was with Sarah, there would always be posts. Perhaps he really was seriously ill this time. Unusually quiet, I didn't foolishly wait for Sarah like before. After washing up, I went straight to bed and scrolled through videos. Back then, my entire world revolved around her, leaving me constantly anxious and insecure. Now that I'd stopped paying attention to her, I felt unexpectedly light. That sense of ease was even more pleasant than anything Sarah had ever given me. The next day, I went to work as usual. On the way, I received message after message from Sarah, so many that the notification sound never stopped. I was a little surprised, because this was exactly what I used to do for her. It seemed that the roles between us had completely reversed. I had only just replied to her message when Sarah immediately called me. "David, actually I wanted to come back yesterday. It's just that Julian's condition was a bit serious, so..." "I know. Having a fever is uncomfortable. It's normal. I'm sorry. I clearly said I'd come home for dinner last night. It's fine, I understand. Let's leave it at that. I need to get to work." Seeing the taxi come to a stop, I brushed her off and hung up. It wasn't until close to the end of the workday that Sarah messaged me again. "There's a company gathering tonight. Are you free?" I found it hard to believe. Sarah's company had gatherings every now and then, but she had never once invited me. "Everyone there is from our company. What would you come for?" That was what she used to say back then. I wanted to understand Sarah's life, so I practically begged her to take me along. In the end, all I got was that sentence and her staying out all night. In the past, I couldn't get what I wanted no matter how much I asked to attend. Now that Sarah was inviting me, I had no interest at all. What would I go to your company's gathering for? Besides, I already made plans to have dinner with colleagues tonight. I won't disturb you guys. Which colleagues? Female colleagues? Just people I'm working on the same project with. Even if I told you, you wouldn't know them. I turned off my phone and suddenly realized the scene felt oddly familiar. I remembered when Julian had just joined the company and Sarah's firm happened to be having a team-building event. I called to ask when she'd be home. On the phone, I heard a man calling her name, so I asked who she was with. Maybe she'd gotten annoyed by my questions because Sarah actually scolded me through the phone. It's just a new subordinate at the company. You don't even know him. Why are you asking so much? I'm the boss of a company. Is it strange for someone to call my name? All you do all day is send messages and make calls. Even if you don't find it annoying, I do. Right before she hung up, I even heard her explaining to Julian. Just a salesman, annoying as hell, calling all day long. Now Sarah was using the very words I once said to her to question me, and I gave her the same kind of answer she'd given back then. All of a sudden, I lost my patience with her. There are both men and women. If there's nothing else, let's leave it at that. People are waiting for me. Then don't drink too much. I'll come pick you up later. Sarah went quiet for a moment. In the end, she sent me a voice message. Her voice was soft and gentle. I couldn't even remember how long it had been since she'd spoken to me like that. Chapter 9. The Celebration and the Confrontation. Today's gathering wasn't baseless. It was something my colleagues had deliberately organized to celebrate my promotion. At the party, everyone was in high spirits, offering me sincere congratulations, and I inevitably had a few extra drinks. Just as I stepped out of the private room to catch my breath, a familiar figure suddenly entered my line of sight. Sarah was her company's gathering here as well. Before I could even try to avoid her, Sarah had already seen me and walked over. She looked pleasantly surprised, even a little happy. David, didn't you say you had plans tonight? Did you come here specially to find me? David, who's this? Are they here to celebrate your promotion too? Before I could say anything, my colleagues had already come out of the private room to pull me back inside. Facing Sarah's eyes full of expectation, I said nothing and let my colleagues drag me back. Just a friend. We happened to run into each other. Since we were about to get divorced anyway, there was no need for me to explain anything because of Sarah. But as I walked in, I subconsciously glanced back. Sarah looked utterly dejected. Had she been hoping I would introduce her to my colleagues just now? That thought only lingered in my mind for a brief moment before the lively atmosphere in the room pushed it aside. Because our gathering was just a small get-together among colleagues, it ended fairly quickly. I sent Sarah a message. I'm done on my end. What about you? David, wait for me a bit. I'll be able to get away soon. I'll head back first then. A colleague's going the same way anyway. Enjoy yourself. I had heard this line from Sarah countless times before. This time, I didn't want to believe it, and I definitely didn't want to foolishly wait alone again. Sitting in my colleague's car, I watched messages keep popping up on my phone and simply switched it to silent. When I got home, I once again took out the divorce agreement and placed it on the table. This time, however, I didn't let Sarah ignore it. I sat on a chair and waited for her to come back. When Sarah walked in and saw me waiting like I used to, a hint of a smile appeared on her face. But the moment she noticed the divorce agreement by my side, that smile vanished instantly. It's been so many days. I think you should understand by now that I'm not joking this time. Since we're both here today, let me sign it. Do we really have to go this far? Is there truly no room left at all to fix things between us? Sarah forced a bitter smile as she stepped closer, even her voice tinged with pain. I said nothing, only looked at her quietly. Suddenly, Sarah quickened her pace and threw her arms around me. David, I don't want a divorce. Please don't do this, okay? Don't you hate seeing me stay in contact with Julian? I can delete him right now. We won't divorce, okay? That's impossible. You've always known exactly what you were doing. It's not that I never gave you chances. You knew full well this would hurt me, but you still did it without hesitation. Now, all the love I had for you has been worn away. And besides, us ending up like this isn't just because of him. There are many problems between us. I helplessly pushed Sarah away and handed her the divorce agreement. I could see her hand tremble the moment she touched it. But soon she snapped, tearing the agreement to shreds. As if that still wasn't enough, she threw the scraps onto the floor and stomped on them again and again. I'm not getting divorced, David. We can't get divorced. I promise I won't contact him anymore. Starting tomorrow, I promise I'll treat you well from now on. Let's not divorce, okay? I simply stood there watching Sarah, letting her vent her emotions. I had once been just as hysterical as she was now, but all I ever received in return were Sarah's cold stares. Now that our roles were reversed, I seemed to finally understand her actions back then. When you're facing someone you no longer love, nothing they do can stir any emotion in you. Sarah, agree to it. Deep down, you know very well that continuing like this will only make things miserable for both of us. And I've accepted a company transfer. In a few days, I'll be moving to another city. Another city? Which one? I have business elsewhere too. I can go with you, okay? Sarah's stomping stopped. She looked at me in disbelief, her eyes filled with a helplessness she couldn't hide. I looked at her and gently shook my head. Sarah, there's no possibility for us anymore. Let's get divorced. Chapter 10. Final goodbyes. Once Sarah realized how determined I was, she didn't drag things out anymore. The very next day, she went with me to finalize the divorce. After everything was settled, I moved as planned to the neighboring city. However, on my very first day at work, I unexpectedly saw Sarah standing at the entrance of the company. She was leaning against her car, staring at me without blinking. I nodded at her in greeting and moved on. Over the next few days, Sarah would always time it just right to appear at the company entrance when I was heading to or leaving work, as if she only wanted to catch a glimpse of me. A colleague beside me couldn't help gossiping. David, your girlfriend? I shook my head and said nothing, my gaze unconsciously drifting away from Sarah. I had barely gotten home, hadn't even changed my shoes when Sarah's call came in. David, have you eaten yet? How about going out for a meal together? How do you know I haven't eaten? You always used to start cooking at 7 o'clock. You definitely haven't eaten yet. There was a hint of smugness in Sarah's tone, as if she'd caught on to one of my habits. I couldn't help laughing softly. Back when she couldn't be bothered with me. Now that we were divorced, she suddenly started paying attention. I'm already cooking. You should find somewhere else to eat. But I'm not familiar with this area, and I don't know where the good places are. Could I maybe? No. If you're just calling to ask me out to dinner, then I don't think there's any need for us to keep talking. Sarah fell silent on the other end. I couldn't be bothered to listen to whatever came next, and simply hung up. While cooking, my phone buzzed twice. I didn't pay it any mind and soon forgot about it altogether. It wasn't until the next morning that I noticed the messages Sarah had sent. David, I think I have a fever. Could you come downstairs and take me to the hospital? I'm right outside your place. I feel awful. My head is spinning. Are you asleep? Why aren't you replying? Before heading to work, I replied, you're not young anymore. If you're feeling unwell, buy some medicine yourself, or just go to the hospital and get checked in. After replying, I threw myself fully into the day's work. Near the end of the workday, a colleague leaned over slyly. David, how come I didn't see that pretty woman waiting for you today? Did you have a fight? Only then did I realize that Sarah hadn't bombarded me with messages all day, nor had she appeared at the company entrance in the morning. I thought maybe she'd finally given up. If Julian hadn't called me afterward, I might really have believed that Sarah was done. David, Sarah's been in a car accident. Could you go take care of her? It's not far from where you work. She's not a child. If it's inconvenient for her, can't she just hire a caregiver? I'm not her babysitter. If you're happy to play that role, you can go yourself. Julian fell silent on the other end. I let out a cold laugh and hung up. If this had been before, the moment I found out Sarah had been in a car accident, I would have rushed over to take care of her without anyone needing to remind me. Even if it were just a minor cold, I would have called and messaged endlessly, urging her to take her medicine and rest. But back then, she had found me utterly annoying. I'm not a child. Do you think I don't know my own condition? Do you really need to stick to me every day reminding me? Stop bothering me. I'm busy. I don't have time to waste on these trivial things. Almost at the same moment I hung up on Julian, Sarah called me. Her voice was weak, carrying a faint note of pleading. David, could you come see me? We're already divorced, and I still have work. I believe you can handle things yourself. Then could you come keep me company for a bit as a friend? Forget it. I don't think our relationship can turn into friendship after divorce. Sarah fell silent on the other end. I didn't want to keep entangling myself with her, so I hung up directly. A few days passed, and Sarah showed up downstairs at my place again, her hand wrapped in gauze. She seemed to have been waiting for a long time. The moment she saw me, she jogged over. David, are you free to have a meal with me today? Sarah, I think I've made myself very clear. You don't need to do this. I stood where I was, looking at her calmly. She seemed anxious and reached out to grab me, but once again I dodged. She silently withdrew her hand, hanging in midair for a moment. I could even see the light fade from her eyes. David, today is our 5th wedding anniversary. Have you forgotten? I thought about it for a moment. It did feel a bit vague. If this had been before, every date related to Sarah would have been etched clearly in my mind without the slightest mistake. Maybe I really had been too busy lately, or maybe I had already chosen to forget her. which was why I couldn't remember. We're divorced now. Does that anniversary still mean anything? It does. Just think of it as indulging me this once, okay? Please. Sarah's tone was almost begging now, her eyes full of expectation as she looked at me. I already have plans with colleagues today. I'm just going upstairs to change, and then I'll head out. David, am I really less important than your colleagues now? Sarah, I have a new life now. I think you don't need to keep living in the past either. I felt helpless, not knowing what else to say. Suddenly, Sarah stepped forward and hugged me tightly, so hard that I couldn't break free right away. David, forgive me, okay? I've already fired Julian. I won't have any contact with him anymore, for the sake of all the years we spent together. Please forgive me, okay? Sarah, haven't you realized yet? Us ending up like this wasn't entirely because of him. Even if there hadn't been him, there would have been someone else, wouldn't there? What you're like now? I truly don't care anymore. I looked at Sarah and smiled faintly. She froze. The arms tightly wrapped around me slowly loosened. She stared at me as if trying to find even a trace of hope in me. After a long while, her eyes welled up with tears, and she lowered her head. I knew she understood. She knew I wasn't acting out of spite, and that there was no way to salvage this relationship anymore. Sarah, goodbye. Chapter 11. A fresh start. A year passed quickly, and the quiet rhythm of my new life felt better than anything I had known before. My work at the branch office flourished. My effort was finally recognized by people who respected me, and for the first time in years, my mind was entirely at peace. I no longer spent my evenings staring anxiously at a phone screen or leaving warm meals in an empty kitchen. I had reclaimed my own time, built a comfortable routines, and learned to truly appreciate my own company. One sunny Saturday afternoon, I was browsing through a quiet local bookstore downtown, enjoying the slow pace of a weekend off. As I reached for an architectural design book on a high shelf, another hand touched the spine of the book at the exact same moment. I turned around and met the bright, warm eyes of a woman named Clara, who immediately laughed in soft surprise and offered a polite apology. You go ahead, she said with an easy smile. I was just admiring the cover. We can share, I replied, handing it to her with a smile of my own. That small interaction turned into a natural conversation right there in the aisle. We ended up walking over to the small cafe next door, talking effortlessly for hours over steaming cups of coffee. We talked about design, our favorite quiet spots in the city, and the simple things that brought us joy. Unlike the constant walking on eggshells that used to consume me, talking to Clara felt effortless, transparent, and completely grounded. There were no hidden motives, no subtexts, and no cold shoulder to navigate. Over the next few months, Clara and I grew closer. Our connection wasn't built on desperate pleas or grand, frantic gestures, but on mutual respect and genuine care. We shared warm dinners at home where both of us cooked together, laughing in the kitchen as we prepped ingredients. When I spoke, she listened intently, asking about my day because she truly cared. When she accomplished something at work, I celebrated her enthusiastically. She never took my efforts for granted, and for the first time in my life, I learned what it felt like to be seen, valued, and loved as an equal partner. One evening, as we strolled along the city riverfront under the warm, amber glow of the streetlights, a light breeze blew across the water. Clara stopped, looked up at me with a soft, affectionate smile, and gently reached down to lace her fingers through mine. I'm really glad I reached for that same book that day, David, she whispered softly. Looking into her clear, gentle eyes, I felt the final traces of old heartbreak and lingering weight completely fade into a distant, irrelevant memory. The pain of the past had served its purpose, leading me out of the storm and guiding me right to where I was supposed to be. I smiled back, squeezed her hand tightly, and knew with absolute certainty that I had finally found my true home.